LouieTeeNetwork.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Patriots, Rams. God damn. That was a sound and thorough ass whooping. And 24-3 doesn't seem bad, but if you watch that, then you know it's bad. Okay? And I tried to tell you guys this already. Talked about it on the podcast. I said, it was funny. I think it was my guy, Kevin, the PRF, that said, hey, did Belichick figure it out? And I said, figure out what? He said, man, they're hot. They're back to 500. I said, look, I'll give them credit. I didn't expect them to get to 6-6. I left them for dead at 2-5. But they had a fortunate stretch of football where they played some bad football teams. Okay? You know, the Jets and, I got to give them credit. They beat the Ravens. They beat the Cardinals. Those aren't bad football teams. Like I said, if they would have played the Ravens in anything other than a natural disaster, they probably lose that football game. But they had to deal with those elements too, and they won. That was a gutty win over the Arizona Cardinals. So you have to give them credit. But I said, they beat the Chargers, who are trash. I said, this is a bad Patriots football team. This is not a good team. Their roster is awful. Cam Newton stinks. And I told you guys, I think a week or two ago on the podcast, I said, Cam Newton, if the Patriots don't re-sign him, and I might have just told this to somebody I was talking to, one of my family members or a friend or somebody. I might have been just talking to somebody. I think I was talking to my homeboy. But I told this to somebody, or I told it to you guys. If I haven't told it to you guys, I'm going to tell y'all right now. The Patriots don't re-sign him, and I don't know why in the hell they would. This is the second time that he's been benched for poor play this season. Second time. Not the first. That first time came against San Francisco in an ass thrashing at home. This is the second time he's been benched for poor performance this season. If they don't re-sign him, he's going to be in the same predicament he was in last year, where we're going to be in July, we're going to be in August, and he's still going to be waiting for the phone to ring. I think he'll find a home, but it's going to take a while. No one's going to be beating his door down to sign him in the offseason. He will not be a priority free agent when the market opens up that second week in March. I can assure you of that. Cam Newton is not what he once was. And I remember once upon a time, a lot of Washington fans, oh, we need Cam Newton. We should have signed Cam Newton. I took some flack on Twitter because I said, and this is the guy, and I was more so talking about the maturity side of things because he got COVID. Has any other team outside of the Broncos who actually didn't have their starting quarterback get COVID, he just was close to someone with the contact tracers that had COVID? Has any team had their starting quarterback miss a game due to COVID-19 other than the Patriots? I rest my case. Bottom line is, there are a lot of people in Washington that wanted Cam Newton and told me I was a damn fool for not wanting him. This guy stinks. Now, in his defense, the talent around him, not very good. That doesn't excuse his poor play, though. He stinks, too. He's a part of the problem, not part of the solution in New England. But enough of the Patriots already, okay? They lost this game 24-3. They didn't win. And they're not going anywhere but home after week 17. So enough of them. Let's talk about the team that actually won the game tonight and thoroughly dominated them. And that's the Los Angeles Rams, because when this season started, they were one of the enigmas. We really didn't know what we were getting. I told you they were going to bounce back this year, but I didn't think they would win the division. They looked to be in a prime position. I just had to look at their schedule. I said, well, god damn. Why can't they win the division? They got the Jets next week. So they saved all of their get out of jail AFC East free cards for the end of the season. You know, Seattle said, "Hey, I didn't use my Jets yet either. They're gonna use they need their Jets this week because they dropped the ball on the Giants this week, so they got to use their Jets to get a bounce back this week. So that division is gonna come down to maybe that Week 16 matchup when those two lock horns for the second time. If the Rams can beat them again and sweep them, then they win the division. If the Seahawks win that game, this thing may go down to Week 17. So it should be pretty interesting. Look, this is the reason you can never count out the Rams, because Sean McVay is their head coach. And I tried to tell my man Q-Bone this before the season. He's an avid Rams fan, and he just couldn't see any way in which they would be good this year. And he told me before the season started, we're going to stink, Lou. I don't see it. I'm telling you, we're going to be trash. And he came back here after a win early in the season against the Bears, I want to say, and he still wasn't convinced. He's like, nope, we're still garbage. We're still not going to be good. I'm telling you, this isn't a good football team. And I'm like, I hear you, man, but Sean McVay, it's the same thing I used to talk about with Bills fans. When I remember one year, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, everyone thought the Bills were going to be bad that year. And, you know, even some of the Bills fans, staunch supporters of the Bills, was like, yeah, you know, I don't think we're going to be good, but we're not going to be as bad as you guys think. And I predicted like 3-13, 4-12 or something like that. And I remember saying, I just don't know. My man who was over at Believers Talk, my man Joey Sharp, said, look, me and you both know, do you really think that a team coached by Sean McDermott is only going to win 3 or 4 games? And I'm like, no, I'm with you. Sean McDermott is too good of a head coach to go down, you know, 4-12, 3-13 road. Like, I just don't see it. He said, me neither. So he said, we're a 6 or 7 win team. Sean McDermott is not going to allow us to be 3-13. And they ended up being, what was it? I think they ended up being, that was Josh Allen's rookie season, by the way. And they ended up being like 6-10, 7-9 or something like that. I remember them going to Minnesota that year and winning and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, look at this. You know? And so I feel the same way about Sean McVay. He's too good of a coach. Just like Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. There are certain coaches that you just look at and you say, no matter what happens, they're going to figure it out. And they're going to get their team to play competitive football, and they're not going to allow, and that's what's happening in New England. If this were a lesser coached team, they'd be 2-10, 2-11, 3-10 right now. But it's Bill Belichick, so they're 6-7. That's why you got to give him credit. However, the Rams have way more talent than the Patriots. So Sean McVay is not going to allow them to go down the path of 5-11 or 6-10. Not with this much talent on the football team. And he knows how to coach it up. He's got his guys. He's got Robert Woods. He's got the best part of waking up, the Rams Cooper Cup. Take a sip. How about that toe drag swag for the touchdown from my man Cooper Cup? They're going to win games. And I thought they were going to win. They were going to make the playoffs. I had them at 10-6. They're looking more like an 11-5, 12-4 type of team. Depends on what they do with Seattle the second time around. But they're looking more like an 11-5, 12-4 team than 10-6, which is what I pegged them. But I had them making the postseason either way. They're an interesting group because I'm still not 1,000% sure about their offense. But this is what I told you on the podcast yesterday, which is why I said they were going to win this game convincingly. Their defense is legit. And you could tell early on in the season, these boys play defense. There was that one game against Buffalo where I was like, what in the hell was that in the second half? You know? Like, or not second half. What was that in the first half? They got smoked early in that game, and the Bills were doing whatever they wanted to do. And then they put the clamps down on them in the second half, and they almost came back and stole that game. But outside of that, there haven't been those mishaps in those games where you go, what was that about? They've been pretty much solid throughout defensively. And you know it when you see it defensively in this league. I know it with Pittsburgh. I know it with this Rams team. And when you can play the kind of defense that they can play, you're going to have problems on your hands when you go up against teams like that. And you saw it again tonight. And that's why I knew the Patriots didn't stand a chance tonight. Didn't stand a chance there because I told you their offense is trifling. It's downright nasty watching this Patriots offense. And I told you, this is the best coaching job that Josh McDaniels has done. Because there is nothing for him to coach. They have nothing on offense. The quarterback is hideous. The talent around him is even worse. Now, I like their running backs. I don't like anything they got at receiver. I actually like Devin Asiasi at tight end, but he's been hurt most of the season. I don't like anything that they have at the skill positions for the most part. I try to like Jacoby Myers. I think I was wrong about the kid out of Arizona State, N'Keal Harry. I should have known. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. I should have known. I should have known better. But I don't want anything out there. If I'm looking at the Patriots roster, they say, hey, man, you can have any of this you want. Just anything on the offensive side, skill-wise, except for our running backs. Tight ends, receivers, help yourself. I'll be like, nah, man, I'm good. Thanks. You sure? You can have it. We don't want any compensation. You can just take. Nah, man, I'm good. Thanks, man. I'm good. They don't have anything that I'm interested in. It's not good. And Josh McDaniels has done a great job of trying to put together a game plan every week that gives them a chance with the limited resources that he's got. So the Rams did exactly what I thought they were going to do. Dominate. And they did. They stymied what is a nasty, funky, smelly Patriots offense. Reduced them to 3 points. Put the clamps on Cam Newton. Made him look pedestrian, which is what he's looked like for much of this season. And put the Patriots, for all of those Patriots fans and people that thought, oh, here come the Patriots. Look out for New England. Pipe down. And I told you guys that after the 45-0 win, I said, relax. Did you see Cam Newton's numbers? Nothing's changed. They still stink. They just played the Chargers. Relax. 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 So for anybody out there that thought they might try to make a run at the postseason, and I think I had a Bills fan up here that said, hey, look out for the Patriots. I hope you're happy now. We can put that to rest, put that to bed, and we can move on with the real contenders for the postseason. Because the Patriots were never one of them. We'll see what happens with the Rams. They're an interesting team. Very, very interesting because defensively, they can beat the Packers. They can beat the Saints. They can beat the Seahawks. They can beat anybody in the NFC defensively. They've already taken down Tampa Bay. They're good enough defensively. I'm still not sure about this offense. But when you play the kind of defense that they play, if they can get this run game with Cam Akers that we saw tonight, and this has been coming. I told you last week, even though the numbers weren't gaudy, he had 21 carries and like 75 yards. Like those aren't eye-popping numbers, but I said, Cam Akers is coming. He's coming. You saw it tonight. He's here, okay? He was coming. He's here now. Massive night for him. And if they can get that going, they're going to be problematic the remainder of this season. Let's see what we got from a comment standpoint. I think I got a couple super chats, and I do. So let's knock these out first. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man John Livingston writes, what up, Lou? I hate the Pats. But I think you're being a little hard on Cam. He has nothing, and I mean nothing around him. He was the MVP 3 years ago. Key phrase was 3 years ago. We're a long way from Kansas, Dorothy. Okay? That dude that you saw, and again, he was the MVP not 3 years ago. He was the MVP 5 years ago. Okay, so let's get that straight. He was not the MVP of the league in 2017. He was the MVP of the league in 2015. Okay, that being said, we are a long way removed from that Cameron Newton. Okay, a long way. Like a couple back injuries, couple surgeries on the shoulder, a couple of injuries to the knee. We're a long way removed from that Cameron Newton. Okay, that guy's gone, never to return again. Okay. That being said, I agree with you that there's nothing around him. But he doesn't make the situation any better. There are guys that are open and he's missing them. Why do you think if they didn't think he was the problem, they wouldn't bench him in games? You don't bench guys that you think are a part of the solution. You bench guys that you think are part of the problem. This is not the first time, as I mentioned already, that he's been benched in game. He's not hurt. He's just stinking. So, I may be being a little harsh, but I don't think so because I know what I've seen this season from Cam Newton. I've seen good Cam. I've seen bad Cam. I've seen more of bad Cam than I have of good Cam. And we've already acknowledged the fact that there is nothing around him. I agree. But it hurts to watch him throw the football. It hurts. And I'm not the one throwing it. Thanks for the super chat, John Livingston. Got another one here from my man, the Cubone. Man, it's so good to hear from you. Because I didn't know if I was going to hear from you or not. I didn't know if I was going to hear from you or not. So it's good to hear from you, Cubone. Who writes, "Welp, guess what I'm doing tomorrow? Oh, hashtag eating some crow, are we? I can't wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. All right. I'll be front and center for that one. You're my guy. But I told you were wrong. And I miss you, man. I miss you. I miss your content. So can't wait to see it. So looking forward to that. And congratulations on being wrong because I'm pretty sure you being wrong has never felt so right. And I felt the same way of late about my team. I picked against them the last 2 weeks. They've won convincingly 2 weeks ago on Thanksgiving, and they won a game against the Steelers that I didn't think they were going to win at all. So I know what it feels like to be wrong and also feel so right being wrong. So congratulations for that and your team being really good. You got a hell of a head coach, man. And I think hopefully if you didn't realize this before, you realize it now. Sean McVay is too good of a head coach to allow you to struggle. And he's going to attract really good coaches. Your defensive coordinator is doing a hell of a job. And it won't be long before he's getting offers to become a head coach. So enjoy him while you can. But don't worry, Sean is really good at recruiting guys. He'll get somebody else good in there for you, and you'll be just fine. So there's that. But thank you for the super chat, Cubone, and I'm looking forward to watching your video whenever it is uploaded. Got a super chat or got a comment here from Captain Spartan 04 who writes, "First things first, rip Debo." Indeed. I posted it on Twitter. 2020 is just relentless, man. I mean, gosh, every week it's somebody new. And it's rough, man. That's why I just continue to tell y'all, keep your loved ones close to you and y'all stay safe out there, man. Keep the loved ones close to you and take care of one another because it's just crazy out here, man. People dropping left and right. It's ridiculous. So definitely, I second that, man. Rest in paradise to Debo, man. One of the greatest villains we've ever seen. And, you go all the way back to No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan, and go through the list of movies he did. But, obviously it'll always be Friday and Debo. He'll be synonymous with that role. And so Tiny Lester Jr., rest in peace. Juan Gotti Talking Sports says, "What are the Patriots going to do with this quarterback position, man? Cam is not it. This offense put me to sleep, and I'm getting mad and I'm not even a Pats fan. Oh yeah, N'Keal Harry stinks. I was so wrong about him, man. I thought he was going to be a beast. And maybe he might be better in a different situation, you know. But they got nothing in New England, and he can't shine. He made a good catch tonight. You know. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they think Jarrett Stidham is the answer or not. But this is a little bit of their arrogance. I don't feel bad for them that they are in this position, because they should have drafted somebody last year. And maybe they didn't like any of the quarterbacks. You don't force the quarterback position. They felt good about Jarrett Stidham. Well, how good did you really feel about him if you felt the need to go out and get Cam Newton and make him your starter? So, I don't know if they love Jarrett Stidham or not, but they're going to be kind of in no man's land again, because they're going to be 8-8. More likely than not. I think they're going to finish up this season at 8-8. And that'll put them somewhere in that, 16, 17 range in terms of a draft pick. And I told you, this is a deep quarterback draft class. The Alabama quarterback, he just reeks of New England Patriots to me. Reeks of it. And so, to me, he'd be a perfect fit in their offense. Smart guy. Accurate thrower of the football, understands where to go. You plug him in, and he'll be their new Jimmy Garoppolo, and you just keep the ball rolling. So, for me, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but they have to address quarterback this year. Don't think you can ignore the elephant in the room any longer, and I think they'll do that this year. I really do. Captain Spartan says, now, since time has passed, how do you feel about all the uniform changes? The Rams uniforms have grown on me. The Rams uniform, I never really had a problem with them. They just didn't move me any. They didn't move me. I wasn't outraged by the Rams. The Rams fans were the ones that were outraged by the Rams uniforms. I was outraged by the Falcons uniforms. Those were the ones that I was like, what are you doing? You were sitting on a classic. You didn't need to do anything to those. That was the one that moved the needle for me. I told you the Chargers have the best. I've already done a podcast on this. I told you the Chargers uniforms, they take the cake. Their color combinations, nasty. Nobody's messing with them in the league. All right. But I don't, the Falcons uniform, I've, come around to it, but I still don't like them. Now, they wore the bleed uniforms, the ones that bleed down and change color. Those are hideous. I told them to get them shits. And that was the game that they blew it against Detroit. You deserve to blow it wearing that shit on a football field. Get the hell out of here. But all the uniform changes, fine by me. Glad to see Tampa go back to what they went to. Glad to see the Browns go back to what they went to. Love the Chargers fits. I told you the Rams, I didn't have a problem with it. It really didn't move me one way or the other. And I'm still not the biggest fan of the Falcons uniforms, but, I'm not as adamant like, oh, my God, they're terrible. I don't really care about the Falcons uniforms. So I think the Chargers, they knocked it out of the park. And Washington's helmets, they've grown on me. I like them a lot. They're clean. Juan Gotti Talking Sports writes, are the Rams this good or are the Pats this bad? I know not to get too ahead of myself, but if the Rams play us in the playoffs, the outcome will be different. Let's see. Different. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Absolutely. And it's a combination of both. The Pats are that bad, but the Rams are that good too. Defensively. I still, like I said already, I still got my doubts about their offense. Like, I feel like if you come out with a solid game plan, your gap sound, and you do the little things correctly against their offense, I really think you can slow them down to the point where you got a chance to beat them. You get to Jared Goff, you can force turnovers. We saw it tonight. You can get to Jared Goff and get him to make some mistakes. The Dolphins did it. You can make Jared Goff into a turnover machine. So, the Rams are good. The Pats aren't. And the two of them met tonight, and your end result is a 24-3 beatdown by the Rams. And so, to me, when I look at the Rams, they're a dangerous team because defensively, they got the best defensive player in football, but they've got talent around him. You saw Michael Brockers go off for 2 sacks tonight. I've been talking about the Sheldon Joseph Day guy all season long. Like, this guy can play football, man. He's flashed for me all season long. Leonard Floyd is playing out of his gourd. They were waiting for this Leonard Floyd for years to show up in Chicago. Never did. Well, he's balling this year. They got talent. Not to mention Jalen Ramsey at corner. And I think Troy Hill is playing excellent football at corner. I really like Darius Williams at corner for them. I like their safeties. John Johnson is a smart football player. They got a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff in Los Angeles. That defense is really good. I, too, think if we were to play them again, the outcome would be vastly different. We're a different football team now, though. Captain Spartan says, feels crazy to see teams actually be successful running the ball. I hope my Steelers can do that one day soon. Also, the sack battle between TJ and Aaron Donald has been entertaining. They keep going back and forth. TJ took the lead on Monday, and Aaron Donald, I think, either tied him back up tonight or took the lead again tonight. But those two are continuing to go back and forth each week, and it is entertaining to watch because both of them are really good at what they do, among the best in the league. Kyle Little says the Rams can actually go far in the playoffs. Goff is the main problem, but he only plays bad against the 49ers defense and any form of Belichick's defense. He can throw on anyone else. And you're right about that because the Dolphins, obviously a disciple of Belichick, struggled with that defense. And the 49ers, for whatever reason, they've got the Jared Goff serum. And they just inject that offense with that serum every time, and Goff just seems to just lose his damn mind against the 49ers. I can't explain it. But you're right. I'm a Jared Goff fan. You know, a lot of people don't like Jared Goff, think he's trash, this, that, and the third. I saw Jared Goff in 2018, and I saw a guy that can play at a very high level. When he's dialed in, he can go with the best of them. You know, I saw him go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. I saw him go toe-to-toe with Kirk Cousins that year when that Vikings offense was ridiculous. I've seen Jared Goff go toe-to-toe with quarterbacks who were playing out of their gourds and him either match or exceed those players. So I know Jared Goff is fully capable. So this team is definitely dangerous. I agree. I still have my doubts about the offense. But I think the key for them is if they can run it like they did tonight. And I'm not saying that, you know, Cam Akers has to go off for a $170 every time. But if they can run it consistently, to keep a defense honest, to make that play action fake mean something, they're a dangerous team. Got a super chat. Gonna go ahead and take that. This one is from John Livingston again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, John Livingston. Greatly appreciate you, my man. John writes, I don't know why I thought it was 2017 for Cam. That's terrible on my part. I've always been a fan of Cam's, but I keep going back to that Seattle game, and he made every throw he made in that MVP season. You're talking week 2 this season against Seattle. He was exceptional in that game. Remember, that was the game that made me start moonwalking. Because I told you, I came after week 1 and their win over Miami 21-11. I came on the podcast and said, this offense for the Patriots, it's terrible. And they're going to have to run Cam 17 times a game in order to function. Because they are so tragically bad offensively. And then the next week he throws for damn near 400 yards. And I'm like, oh. I might have misspoke. So that one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, maybe I might have been a little bit hasty with that decision. But That was fool's gold because remember, Seattle's defense, we didn't know it at the time. Seattle's defense was among the worst in the league, and that's why he did that. You know, he's played well against bad teams, but anytime you put a formidable defense in front of him, he's thrown up all over himself this season. Violently, I might add. So, I understand that he used to be good. He's not anymore. That's how I feel. And again, he could get, go somewhere else and they could have more talent around him and he may be able to elevate his game. That is very possible. I just don't see it. And I don't know who's going to be willing to give him that opportunity either. Just as a side note. Because I look around the league and this is how I feel. If he really loves the game of football and wants to continue to play, it will have to be in a backup capacity. I don't see anybody signing Cam Newton and saying, here's the reins, here's the keys, drive the car. I don't see anybody doing that after this year. Now, I could see, your Baltimore or somebody saying, hey, we'd love to bring you in as a backup to Lamar Jackson or to fill in the blank quarterback. If he's willing to do that, and I don't know if he's willing to put his ego aside to do that, cool. Because Robert Griffin III, I believe, is a free agent this upcoming year. If I'm Baltimore, I want out of that business. After watching him against the Steelers, I want out of the Robert Griffin III business. I'd love to get in the Cam Newton business if he's willing to accept the role as the backup behind Lamar Jackson. But if he's not, if he thinks he's a starter in this league, give me a team that would be willing to turn over the reins to him. I'm waiting. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up, John Livingston. Got another one here from Silver V, my man Silver Villains. Thank you for the super chat as always. Silver Villains writes, which team would you like to play when your team hosts the wild card game, which they will? I don't have a preference. I really don't. Obviously, they're going to be, it's more likely than not going to be the loser of the NFC West. They're probably going to be the first wild card. More likely than not. So, if Seattle loses the division, they'll probably be the 5 seed, and that's who you'll be playing in the first round. If the Rams lose the division, they'll be the 5 seed, and that's who you'll be playing in the first round. It could easily be Tampa Bay, but I just don't see the Buccaneers doing enough. And they already lost to the Rams this season. So I think it's going to ultimately be the Seahawks or the Rams. Whoever doesn't win that division, that's who you're going to have to play. So it's not who I would like to play. It's who we're going to play, But if I had a preference, you're asking me if I could pick the team, then I probably would pick Minnesota if they make it into the playoffs. I think we could beat Minnesota. I'm not impressed with them, and I don't think their defense is very good. So I think I'd take Minnesota, but again, it's not who I want to play. It's who we're going to ultimately have to play. Or, even if we got a second shot at Arizona, I'd love that. Because I don't think Arizona's all that great. They're very capable, but they're not great to me. But it wouldn't be that. It would be the loser of the NFC West division. So, and I love your confidence because I do think we're going to win the division this year. But we'll see. We still got a lot of football left to be played. And the Giants, they're not going away. So, there is that. Got a super chat here from Sean HTTR Forever. Thank you for the super chat, Sean, who writes, what do you think about signing Juju? First of all, I don't think the Steelers are going to allow him to leave. All right. To me, he smells, reeks of Pittsburgh Steeler for life. He's like the new Hines Ward. He's not going anywhere. He fits that team. His demeanor is a Steeler demeanor. The fan base has gravitated towards him. I think Mike Tomlin loves him. He does all the dirty work. He's the new Hines Ward. He's not going anywhere. So Would I have an issue with us signing him? No. He's right there in the wheelhouse of the age group that you're looking for, that age range. He's going into the prime of his career. Yeah, that's the kind of guy you want to sign to a big contract if you're looking to get a receiver. But honestly, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I don't think Washington's in the market for a wide receiver anymore. I don't. After watching Cam Sims, and remember, Harmon is coming back next year. You still got AGG, who they really like. That's why they drafted him. I don't really think they're going to make... It wouldn't shock me if they drafted a receiver, and it wouldn't shock me if they signed a guy. But I'm not going into the offseason thinking that that's high on the list of priorities. If they fall into a guy that they like, okay, I can see it happening. But are they going to be one of those teams on day one? Because a guy like Juju, for instance, if he becomes available, which I don't think he will, but if a guy like Juju or Corey Davis is available on day one of free agency, they're signed. They're the guy that you hear about during that moratorium period where agents get to talk to teams and those tentative agreements get to happen and you hear about these deals, a day or two before free agency actually starts. Those are the guys that are going to be getting signed during that period. So when free agency actually starts, they're putting ink to paper and becoming, the highest paid receiver in the league, or, X amount of dollars for X amount of years, big money, big signing bonus. Those are the types of guys that are going to get those deals. I don't think Washington's going to be in on that. I don't. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, Sean HTTR. Let's see. I think I was right here. Cody Larson writes, Cam's arm is shot. Not necessarily his strength, but his shoulder. I agree. That's why I said it hurts me to watch him throw. Every time he throws it, I'm wincing like, ugh. He says, by the way, some Rams fans told me today that McVay was a bottom 10 coach. LOL. Look, I don't know what their metric is. I'd love to know what metric that he's in, the bottom 10, the bottom third of the league in terms of a coach. He might not be analytics driven and based like a lot of these teams. He may not be over aggressive in going forward and things of that nature. I know he burns a ton of timeouts because he tries to do so much pre-snap, and so they burn a lot of timeouts. So from that standpoint, can he be a little frustrating? Sure. How many times have you seen Sean McVay through the course of a game sprinting down to the official and calling timeout, and it's with 7 minutes and 32 seconds in the third quarter, you're like, bro, we might need that at the end of the game. How many times has he panicked, thinking his team was about to have a delay of game, and he hauls ass down to the official and calls timeout? And you're like, bro, we need those. Why are you wasting these timeouts? But outside of that, Sean McVay is excellent. And I can tell you right now, 29 teams in the league, more likely than not, would love to have him. And I say 29 because obviously the Rams already have him. And then the Patriots, they're pretty good. They're good with Belichick. The Steelers, they're good with Tomlin. I want to throw the Ravens in there with Harbaugh. But, there was rumblings and grumblings about Harbaugh's job security just 3 years ago when they were struggling, before Lamar Jackson came on the scene. So, but you'd like to throw him in the mix as well. There's some teams that have coaches, Sean Payton in New Orleans, that they're perfectly fine with. But for any team that doesn't have one of those guys, they'd love to have Sean McVay. So I find that funny as well. I'm with you on Cam's shoulder. It's not his arm strength. He can still zip it. It's his shoulder. I'm with you. 110%. Let's see. I got another super chat. This one is from my man JL Smooth. Once again, thank you for tripling up. John Livingston, my man JL Smooth writes, you don't think a team like the Bears would have any interest? They have the D, but their offense is painful to watch. And isn't there something to be said about Josh McDaniels struggling with Cam? I think he's done a phenomenal job, to be honest with you. I mean, with the limited resources he's been given and some of the game plans he's put together with Cam this season to get them victories. Look, with this collection of talent and with Cam struggling the way he has at times this season to be 6-7 and to do some of the things that they've done and to be in some of the ball games that they've been in, I think Josh McDaniels deserves a ton of credit. That being said, a team like the Bears might be interested, but if you're the Bears, and again, you can probably sell Cam Newton to your fan base, absolutely. But if you're paying attention, if you're a smart football fan, you're like, what's the big difference between Mitchell Trubisky and Cam Newton right now? And I know some of you are going to try to kill me for that. And you can point to 2015 and say, he's not that guy anymore. What's the difference between 2020 Cam Newton and Mitchell Trubisky? There isn't a big difference. The only difference is you bring Cam into that locker room and guys believe. More so than they do in Mitchell Trubisky right now. That is it. There's not much of a difference there, honestly speaking. I don't think he's going to elevate that Bears offense if you stick him in the mix. I don't. I'd honestly say if you're the Bears, you'd be better off signing Jameis Winston in the offseason than signing Cam Newton. Yeah, you're going to have some interceptions, but he's going to make some plays. He's going to give you a shot. And with that defense, you're going to have a chance. So, look, at the end of the day, I think if he's willing to swallow his pride, put his ego aside, and accept whatever role comes his way, he'll be on an NFL roster. But if he's waiting for someone to give him an opportunity to start, I don't know if that's going to come or not. And Chicago would be a place that would be interested, for sure. You know, when you look around the league, Chicago is definitely in the mix. They don't have an answer at quarterback right now. But there aren't a lot of teams in that scenario right now, like there have been in past seasons. So, you know, we'll see. It's an interesting situation to be in because the Bears, when it's all said and done, they're not going to be in that sweet spot to get a quarterback that they probably want. But Cam Newton, I don't think is an answer for anybody at the quarterback position. So we'll see. But that's an interesting scenario, Bears. But I just don't think so. Sean, HTTR forever. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Sean. Greatly appreciate you. Sean writes, your opinion on Landon, keep or trade? I don't think he has any trade value right now. Not coming off of a torn ACL. So, if you're asking me if I had a choice, I would, I probably would trade him. I actually now, here's the thing. I like Landon Collins. And I wanted Landon Collins when we signed him. I was excited about the signing. I haven't been blown away by Landon Collins. I think he's been solid. I thought he was struggling for much of the season, and he was just starting to come on in that Dallas game when he got injured. I'd like to see Landon with this defense now that it's starting to kind of get its footing underneath itself, and with a real free safety like DeShazer Everett, who I really like, and I think he's a starting free safety in this league. I'd like to see Landon coupled with him. You know, I really like Cameron Curl, and that's why I would be okay with moving on from Landon Collins. But that said, you can play with three safeties on the field. You can have some creativity. You can do some things and keep them all on the field at the same time. So I like Landon. He's not going anywhere, first and foremost. This is a hypothetical because we're not trading him. He's not going anywhere. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him. He's got a massive contract, obviously. So he's not going anywhere. But if I had suitors out there, I would definitely look to move him. But I would like to see him healthy and not trying to do too much. I'd like to see him just come in and be the Landon Collins of old. Honestly, I would. So we'll see what happens with him, but expect him to be back with this football team next year. Don't think he's going anywhere. Got a super chat from Cleveland Combs. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Cleveland Combs. Got another one here from the Phillies Ace 34. Greatly appreciate you, the Phillies Ace 34, who writes, "Hey, what's up, Louie? Since Peterson and Wentz's relationship is over, do you think we should go find a new coach because you can't do nothing with Wentz?" It's interesting because you're right. You're stuck with Wentz, whether you like it or you don't like it. I don't really know how fractured that relationship is. I would defer to you. You being an Eagles fan, you would know better than me. Is it at the point of no return? Probably not. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. But it feels, and I've been getting mixed messages from Eagles fans about, this decision was potentially forced upon Doug Peterson. And I'm getting it from other people that, Peterson was really frustrated with Wentz. I feel like he's given him a ton of opportunities. I don't necessarily think he's done any favors by Wentz, by some of the play calling or some of the things he's done. But, at the end of the day, the loyalty here should lie with Wentz. And it should go vice versa because Peterson was the guy that was there to draft you. He was the guy that pretty much said, hey, we're gonna start you day one as a rookie. We're going to trade. And obviously a scenario came up in which they couldn't refuse, in which Teddy Bridgewater goes down, the Vikings are desperate, and they're willing to give up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. You can't turn that down, and they didn't. And they did the smart thing there. But he's been in Wentz's corner, I feel like, since day one. So I don't know what you do. I'm not a Doug Peterson fan, personally. Don't think he's a great in-game strategist. Think he just kind of goes off the seat of his pants. And that'll get you beat 9 times out of 10 in this league. If you don't have a feel for the game, if you're just doing things just to be doing them, you're going to get beat. So could you bring in a guy that's an offensive-minded coach that sees the talent that is Carson Wentz and is able to rebuild him back into the quarterback that was on his way to becoming a league MVP? That's possible. There's some guys in mind that would probably do wonders with Carson Wentz, like a Eric Bieniemy, like Joe Brady in Carolina. There are a number of different guys that could fit in nicely. Lincoln Riley is another name that is starting to gain a little traction if he wants to leave Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, I don't really know if Philadelphia is poised to make a change or not. But as you mentioned, you can't get rid of Wentz. So if you're going to try to change this situation and make it better, the only thing you can really change is Doug Peterson. Because as you mentioned, you can't do anything with Wentz in that contract. And nobody's going to take it off your hands. So I think it's an interesting dilemma that they face. And one that I'm anxious to see if they're really willing to pull the trigger on Doug Peterson or not. And maybe it'll really come down to how they finish up this season and how Jalen Hurts plays. Well, we'll see. Silver V. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Silver V. My man Silver Villains, thank you for the super chat and doubling up, who writes, could the Pats sucker the Jets into a trade for Sam Darnold? Are they that kind of stupid? LOL. Yeah, the Jets are that kind of stupid. I wouldn't allow Sam Darnold near another team in this division, especially the Patriots, because Sam Darnold isn't terrible. And if you get him in the right situation, he could turn into a damn good NFL quarterback. I don't care if the Patriots gave me 2 first-round picks. I wouldn't do it because if he is what I think, and the Jets may be thinking, well, this guy stinks. They don't know what they're in for. And they trade him, and they're thinking, those first-rounders are going to be top 10 picks because Sam Darnold stinks. they'd be wrong as hell. And they'll be picking at, 30 and 28 respectively the next couple of years. And they'll regret it. And he'll be kicking their ass 2 times a year for the rest of his career. I don't think they're going to do that. But if the Patriots called, I wouldn't even pick up the damn phone. Don't call me. Don't call my line. Don't hit me. Because I'm not trading Sam Darnold to you. But we always talk about this. The draft has a strange way of making bedfellows with sworn enemies. Okay, we talk about this every year. Because you'll see, Steelers and the Ravens trade players. We've seen it before. Matter of fact, I was watching the film of the Steelers game, and I saw the defensive tackle that the Ravens drafted a couple of years ago. Or it might be, I think it's the other way around. Steelers drafted him, and I was watching the Ravens game against the Cowboys, and they traded that defensive tackle to the Ravens, did the Steelers. So you see these things happen, and it usually only happens around draft time. So, all of that stuff sounds good, and I would never. Somebody calls you up and tells you, hey, I got a first and a second for you for Sam Darnold. Are you going to hang that phone up? Or are you going to make the deal? So, that's interesting because Darnold, I think, is going to be a hot commodity this offseason. I really do. I think there are going to be a number of teams that are going to be really interested to see what it's going to take to get him up off of the Jets. And the Patriots may be, among those teams interested. They really might be. We'll see. I think it's going to be a hot market for him this offseason. I do. Thank you for the super chat, Silver V. That's pretty funny. My man John Livingston, JL Smooth. Thank you for the super chat. And really appreciate you, JL Smooth, who writes, I'm going to be here when Cam is lighting it up again, Lou, but I digress. LOL. I'm going to be here too. You know where to find me. And if you're right, I'm going to give you some love. I'm going to give you your props. And I will give up the double O. I will give up the double O if it is necessary. And I'm so adamant about Cam that would require a double O. If he were to get back to Pro Bowl status, I would have to offer up a double O. And, I would have no problems doing it. I just don't see it happening. I told you, I'll admit, I was wrong about DK Metcalf. I offered up a double O like 7 games into his rookie season. I know when I'm wrong. And you know when you know. You can see it. It doesn't take long. I saw it with DK last year. I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I made an entire video and I offered up the double O. I'm not going to wait. There's no delaying. If you're wrong, give it up. So I'll be here. Okay, trust me. I'll be here for all of it. But it's not happening. But I digress. Got another super chat here from my man John Livingston. Really appreciate you, JL Smooth. Can't even see you right now, man. My man JL Smooth writes, switching gears now. You hear that the Manish Mehta story about the Jets where apparently he was stalking Joe Douglas's son? What the F is going on in New Jersey? I have no idea. I haven't heard that story, so that's news to me. But nothing surprises me with that Jets organization or anything surrounding it. It's the Jets, man. They're super toxic. I mean, they really are. And so it's a lot of bad karma out there with the Jets organization. And so I haven't heard that one. That's news to me. I'll probably have to go track that story down and see what the smell is going on out there because that's crazy. But that's news to me. I haven't heard that one, John. I haven't. That's news to me. If that's true, that's wild. I know that. Sean, HTTR forever. Thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. My man Sean, HTT forever writes, I would love to give Steven Montez a chance. He's very mobile and has that grit factor. What do you think about him? Not a Steven Montez fan. I actually broke him down draft time when we signed him as a UDFA. You're right about a couple of things. He's big, he's athletic, he's got a cannon for a right arm. Everything you're looking for in a prototype NFL quarterback, but there are a lot of things that are just off with Steven Montez. And you kept waiting, and he had talent at Colorado, okay? He had talented players that got drafted, year after year. Javon Winfrey, Laviska Shenault. There were talented football players on that team in Colorado, and you kept waiting for him to put up monster numbers. You kept waiting for the touchdowns to skyrocket and the interceptions to come way down, and it never happened. And so I'm not a Steven Montez fan, personally, but I'd like to see him in the preseason, not in a regular season game. So they'll keep working with him, but to me, he's not an NFL starting caliber quarterback. But I'd like to see what he's got, because he's toolsy. We talk about guys that are toolsy all the time. He's got a lot of tools, but does he know how to use them? Not quite sure about that. Getting close to that hour mark. So, let's see. Let's get back to some comments real quick. Knock some of these out. See where we left off. My man JP says, nobody should want to play this Rams team in the postseason. They're so good and very well coached, and nobody can out-prepare Sean McVay. They're dangerous. I will definitely agree with you on that. They are a dangerous team, and this defense is what scares me the most. I love Sean McVay to death, but I'm not afraid of this offense right now. But this defense, they're something else. And in the playoffs, what can bring a team to a screeching halt is elite defense. And at times, this Rams defensive unit is elite. I don't think they're dominant enough to carry them all the way to the Super Bowl or anything like that. But on any given game, they are capable of beating you up defensively, getting to your quarterback, and really roughing you up, taking you out of your game plan and forcing you to do some things you're not comfortable doing or didn't think you were going to have to do coming into the game. And that changes things. This is your game plan. This is what you think you're going to get accomplished. And then Aaron Donald smacks you in your face in the first quarter and says, new plan. What do you do? What do you do? So, like I said, this Rams team is definitely scary. Still not sold on them offensively, but they're scary. Got another super chat. This one is from the Phillies Ace 34. Double up. Thank you for doubling up the Phillies Ace 34. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace writes, Peterson and Reed are two coaches who lucked up into talent, which helped them win Super Bowls to mask their coaching deficiencies. Please take NFC East. I know Andy Reid, there were a lot of Eagles fans, and people have said this for a long time. Andy Reid is not a great game manager. We've seen that over the years. Andy Reid is a talented game plan constructor. He's a great play caller. I think he's a great delegator. Andy Reid is a hell of a coach. But Patrick Mahomes definitely is masking some of his deficiencies. But make no mistake about it, Andy Reid's a hell of a coach. I've always felt that about him. His in-game strategy leaves a lot to be desired. He mangles the clock on a consistent basis. There's a lot of that goes on with Andy Reid. He's still doing that to this day. But he's got Patrick Mahomes, so as you mentioned, cleans up a lot of those things. Doug Peterson, same thing. I told you I hate his in-game management. I think his in-game management skills are horrendous. He goes for two unnecessarily. He goes for it on fourth down when he shouldn't. He just doesn't understand the flow of the game. And, maybe for a while there, he was being bailed out by Wentz and by Nicholas Foles and guys that were getting it done at a high level. But that juice and that magic has run out, and now he's being exposed. So I think there is some validity to that. I think there is something there to that. Indeed, the Philly Ace 34. I think you're spot on there in certain regards. But make no mistake about it. Andy Reid can coach. Let's get that clear. Andy Reid can coach. Got another super chat here from my man JP. Thank you for the super chat, JP. Greatly appreciate you. My man John Perez writes, the best part of waking up, the Rams Cooper Cup. Gotta love it, man. Gotta get your cup of Joe. It's hot. Smoking hot in the morning, man. Gotta get that Cooper Cup, man. I always say, make sure you cool them off. If you don't cool them off before the game starts, you're going to have your hands full with Cooper Cup. Make sure you blow on that thing, because that boy is dangerous. Very, very underrated wide receiver in this league. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Hell of a football player. Love me some Cooper Cup. Anyway, got a comment here from Captain Spartan, who writes, still think the Rams get the 5 seed, saying they lose to the Seahawks and your Washington team beats them in the playoffs. I'd love it. And I'm not afraid of them. I do have nightmares of Aaron Donald, however. And I didn't think we handled him well in the first matchup. But you learn from those types of situations. And I'm pretty sure they'd have a much better plan for him the next time around. So, I want to see what we do against the Seahawks in a couple of weeks, obviously, because that game is going to go a long way in determining if we're going to make the postseason as well. And if we're able to play well against them, even if we don't beat them, but we show well, if we do happen to make the postseason, win the division, get the home playoff game, and have to see them again, that will bode well for us. So, but you think that the Seahawks are going to win that division. I tend to agree with you, but after looking at the Seahawks schedule, and I was more adamant about them winning the division before they lost to the Giants. That spooked me a bit. That loss was pretty spooky. Really, really scary, like some shit you see in the movies. That was really spooky. That one kind of spooked me a bit, and I don't really know if I trust them to win the division or not. You got to beat the Giants. Sorry. Colt McCoy at quarterback, you got to find a way to win that game. They didn't, so I don't know. We'll see. Got one here from my man Ree, who writes, do you think Marvin Lewis will be a head coach again? This man turned a turd into a brownie and sustained it. I think he deserves another shot. Honestly, no. I don't think he'll get another job. Here's the thing about NFL coaches. If you're viewed in a favorable light, if people think you're an elite NFL head coach and you don't want time off, you don't get time off. You understand what I'm saying? If you're viewed around league circles as a damn good NFL head coach, you don't have to wait a year to get a job. Like Mike McCarthy had to wait. And then lie to the Cowboys and tell them he watched every single game and watched every single play. You don't have to do that. If Mike McCarthy was so damn good as a coach, he would have got snatched up the very next offseason. But you know what everybody said? Hey, we good, man. Thanks. You can go home and sit for a year and come back. Maybe somebody will hire you next year. If you're now, granted, if you've been coaching for 9-10 years straight and you're burnt out and you want a year off, cool. Like Mike Shanahan did when he was with the Broncos. Got fired and he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to take a year off, reassess, and I'll come back. And then he ended up coaching with Washington. But when Andy Reid was fired, he had a job like 2 days later. When Ron Rivera got fired, he was hired the first day you could hire coaches. He was hired by Washington. If you're viewed as a good coach in this league and you want to coach, you'll get work immediately. You don't have to wait. The fact that Marvin Lewis hasn't been hired yet speaks to how he's viewed around the league. I like Marvin Lewis. And he did some really good things in Cincinnati. But there were also a lot of things wrong with his tenure in Cincinnati. A lot. This is the one thing I can say, though. His coaching tree, the guys that he hired as coordinators, everybody was getting jobs. Hugh Jackson got a job. I'm not saying he was a great coach. Hugh Jackson got a job. Jay Gruden got a job. Mike Zimmer got a job. He was churning them out. He knew how to find good offensive and defensive coordinators and coaches. So there's something to be said about that, but I don't think he's getting another job. Honestly, we'll see. You never know. Gregory Lightbody says, "Wow, Lou, I really like Joe Thuney for Washington, even though you're not interested in Pats players." I didn't say anything about the offensive line. I said they're skill players outside of the running back position. Skill players. I didn't say anything about their offensive line. I didn't say anything about their defense. I'm just strictly talking wide receivers and tight ends. Cody Larson says, "It would be like the Patriots to draft an Alabama quarterback, one dynasty to another." And I think he would fit them really well, you know. We'll see what happens. Captain Spartan writes, "I kind of like having these stadiums without fans this year because it's cool seeing what all these stadiums truly look like. But I can't wait to go back to packed stadiums and fans going crazy. I don't care what the stadium looks like. I love hearing the players on the field. You hear everything. You hear audibles. You hear some of the trash talking that's going on in the field. You hear the referees talking to the players. You hear everything on the field. That's the one thing that I'm going to miss. Because I want fans back in the stands too. But honestly, I don't give a shit. I just want the product on the field. I think the product on the field is enhanced by fans being in the stands. So by virtue of that, I want fans back in the stands. But I'm going to miss hearing the players on the field because you hear everything. I love it. I'm not going to lie to you. JP says, "Whatever happened to your guy Sean Mack? Haven't heard from him in a while." He's around. Sean Mack's around. He pick and chooses when he decides to jump in these conversations. He's more of a lurker these days, but I still talk to my man Sean Mack. He's still as present as ever. But he's a lurker more so these days. But he watches. He's not always able to be live, but when he's able to be live, he chimes in. He's around. Reese says, "Falcons out there looking like the meme machine, but they aren't half as cool." No, they're not. Kevin the PRF says, "It seems for years Belichick did such a good job of reloading, but he blew it at quarterback. Should have drafted a successor 3 years ago." Well, here's the thing. Remember, and this people forget this. He never wanted to trade Jimmy G. Never wanted to trade Jimmy G. He wanted to get rid of Tom Brady. He wanted to keep Jimmy G. Remember that. Never forget that. Jimmy G was his guy. And Robert Kraft stepped in and said, no. Tom still has some more Super Bowls left in him. And he was right. I think Tom won 2 more Super Bowls after that point. But he knew what he wanted and he knew what was going to happen. And he was pretty much overruled. 2 against 1. Brady and Kraft against Belichick. So, just for whatever it's worth, Belichick knew what was going on. It's hard to draft the successor when you're not drafting in a position to get the successor. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they got lucky with Jimmy G. That's why he didn't want to trade him, because he knew how hard it was to find him. They kept fleecing people. Billy Ho, Ryan Mallett. They kept getting teams to think. Matt Cassell. They kept getting teams to think hey, this guy behind Brady, hey, yeah. And then, after Matt Cassell and Billy Ho and Ryan Mallett, they was like, we ain't doing that no more with y'all. But he found one that he actually wanted to keep. He was cool with giving up Billy Ho. He was cool with giving up Ryan Mallett. He was cool with giving up Matt Cassell. The one that got away was Jimmy G. He did not want to trade Jimmy G. He wanted to keep that one because it's hard to find that diamond in the rough when you're always drafting 30th, 31st, 32nd. It's tough when you got to go in the second and the third round because you can't find that quarterback. So he found one in the third round. I think Jimmy G was either a second or third round pick. I think it was a late second. He found one. And he didn't want to let him go. And they made him. So that one hurt. That was the one that got away. They tried to do it with Ryan Mallett. Not Ryan Mallett, with Jarrett Stidham. It didn't work. He tried. It's hard to find a guy in the second, third round. It's hard. They ain't easy. The Russell Wilsons and the Kirk Cousins of the world, those guys are hard to find. They're hard to come by. They're out there, but they're hard to come by. They're not easy to find. Gregory Lightbody says, if the Rams defense can't beat the 49ers, how can the Washington football team? I mean, is that a real question? Are you serious or are you trolling? You do understand that that's family business, right? Let's see. I'm going to scan and try to grab a couple more comments. JP says, Patriots need to be done with the Cam Newton experiment, but Bill is so stubborn and petty, he's probably going to continue to start him. I mean, honestly, unless you really believe in Jarrett Stidham and want to see what he's got, what's the point of not playing Cam Newton? He probably gives you the best chance to win. I mean, it's not saying much, but unless you really want to see what you got in Jarrett Stidham these final 3 games of the season, why would you not go back to Cam Newton? It's only 3 games. It's not like you got 8 games left and Cam Newton's been a train wreck and he doesn't give you the best chance to win. It's 3 games left. Just let him finish out the season. Unless you really want to see what Jarrett Stidham can offer you. Then you let Jarrett Stidham finish out the season. The real LC says, Lou, did you see that Washington has the biggest point differential in the second half at 89 plus points? The last 3 games, teams have scored a combined 6 points in the second half. I did see that. But, I mean, if you've been watching this team all season long, you already knew that. You didn't know that it was plus 89, and you didn't know it was the highest in the league. But you already, look, we were one of the last teams. I think we were one of like 4 teams that we went like, I think it wasn't until, I'm trying to think of what exact game it was, where we gave up our first touchdown in the third quarter. We were one of like 4 teams that hadn't given up a third quarter touchdown, and we were like 7, 8 games in. I'm trying to think. I want to say, I don't remember what game it was. It had to be like, I almost want to say it's the Detroit game. Was our first time giving up a touchdown in the third quarter. It might have been before that, but we haven't given up many points. We know we're a second half team. We've been that all season long. Started in week 1 with Philadelphia. Down 17-0. They didn't score a single point in the second half. 27 unanswered. We win that game. Arizona is dusting us in the first half, 20-0. They scored 10 points total in the second half, and we made it again. We scratched and clawed our way back into that game 23-15 before they put us out of our misery and won the game 30-15. So, like I've said, like that's been the theme. Browns game, same thing. Dominated the third quarter. Took the lead. We were down 17-3 at half. Took the lead 20-17 into the fourth quarter before throwing up all over ourselves in the fourth quarter and losing 34-20. Every week, it's the same thing, same theme. Every week. Rams game, getting dominated at halftime. I think that game was 20-10. I think it was 20-10 or 23-10 at halftime. It ended up being 30-10 in that game. Ravens game, same thing. They didn't score many points in the second half. They dominated the first half, though. It's been a trend all year long. And, you go back to the first Giants game. That score was 13-7, 13-10 at half. The Giants scored one touchdown. It was a defensive touchdown. Scooper scored. The next week, Dallas. They scored 3 points. That was in the first half. They didn't score a single point in the second half of that game. Come off the bye week. Giants dominate us 20-3 at first half. They scored 3 points in the second half, win the game 23-20. The week after that, it's the Lions game. Lions dominate us in the first half 17-3. They scored a touchdown to start, and I think that's the first time we gave up a third quarter touchdown. They scored a touchdown to start the second half, go up 24-3. We think the game's over. Alex Smith rallies us back. We tied at 24. They take the lead at 27-24. We tied again at 27, and then they kicked the game-winning field goal. So they scored 13 points. I think that's the most the Browns game is the most second half points we gave up, and a lot of that was due to the the offense turning it over with Dwayne and all the interceptions. And I think the Lions game is the most we gave up truly as a defense, without turnovers and things impacting. Like, the defense has been lights out in the second half. And you can keep going on and on. Cincinnati didn't score a single point in the second half. Dallas, the second time around, I don't think, let's see, what was the score of that game? They scored 3 points in the second half of that game. After the Alex interception, defense comes out, holds, they kick a field goal. That is it. They had 13 at halftime. They ended up with 16 in that game. You go to the Steelers game. Steelers had a 14-0 lead going into the final possession of the first half. We get a field goal before halftime, touchdown after halftime. They score one field goal in the second half, and that's it. At 14 points at halftime, 17 at the game's end. So we've been dominant in the second half. That's been a whole year-long thing, though. Our problem is, can we survive the first half? We've done a much better job of that. Even though the Steelers game was a little dicey, you're sitting there at 14-0 thinking, this is not where we want to be. And then they show you that stat that scares you to death. Steelers are 78-1-1 when they're up 14 points or more in a game. And you're thinking, well, that doesn't bode well for us. But we were able to make it 78-1-2. So, yeah, it's a crazy stat, but it's believable because if you've been watching the team all year long, you've seen it. I'm going to take a couple more comments, and then we can get out of here. Reese says, I don't want to play you guys in the playoffs. You guys can get after the quarterback. The Bears aren't better than us, but they got after Brady. I want no parts of your boys in the playoffs. I want a team that I can get to the quarterback. And the Bucs seem to be one of those teams. Now, you've got a ton of talent. That scares me half to death. And if this were a normal Brady operation, I want no parts of Tom Brady. None. Because Brady gets us out of his hands quickly. But if you're telling me that it's this, Bruce Arians offensive attack where he's trying to push it down the field, I'll take my chances. Because he's going to hold on to the ball. In order for those long developing routes to take place, Brady's got to hold on to it. I feel like we can get to the quarterback a little bit and make some things happen. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. Cody Larson says, I don't want to face Washington or the Bucs, but if I had to choose one, it'd be Washington, but I don't want any part of neither one of you guys. I love the fact that nobody wants to play us, but we're good, but we're not that good. Like, you don't have to be afraid of us. We don't bite. Okay? Like, seriously. You're saying you don't want any parts of us. We don't want any parts of you or Tampa Bay. Remember when I was asked earlier, who would I want to play? I didn't mention Green Bay. I didn't mention Tampa Bay. There's a reason. I mentioned Minnesota. I mentioned I'd like to take a shot at the Rams again. I'd take Arizona. I omitted Tampa Bay for a reason. I want no parts of them. I want no parts of an offense that can score 40 in a game. Even though our defense is capable of holding you down, the fact that you're capable of doing that and you got dynamic playmakers, I'll pass. Cody Larson says, nah, they had that argument the year they went to Super Bowl 52, so Brady had one more win and two more appearances. Okay. He still was right. They still won a Super Bowl. Thought it was 2, but he still was right. They went to 2, they won 1, so technically speaking, they still had a run in them. You trade Brady away, there's no guarantee you win anything with Jimmy Garoppolo. So, I've always said get Super Bowls while you can. You worry about everything else. And that's what Belichick and the Patriots did. You worry about the mess that's made when it's all over, when it's done. Look, when you partying, don't worry about the mess that you got to clean up after the party's over. Just enjoy the party, man. We'll clean it up later. Enjoy the party. Go have fun. Yeah, it might be a daunting task afterwards. It's a lot of mess we got to clean up. But go have fun. We'll clean up later. I remember, I'll leave you guys with this. I remember going to a wedding once. And they had rented out this hall to have the reception at afterwards. And it was a buddy of mine, and he paid a deposit to hold it at this place. And in order to get his deposit back, he had to make sure that the building, that the space that we were renting was clean by a certain time. I think he said it was 11. So while he wanted to enjoy himself at his reception, the entire night he's taking pictures, he's doing the whole cake thing and all of that stuff. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's cleaning shit up. He's pushing in chairs and he's picking up dirty plates. I'm like, dude, you got people to do that. Go have fun. You don't have these nights. You get to do this once. And he didn't get to enjoy himself. Why? Because he's so worried about getting his damn deposit back. Don't worry about afterwards. You'll figure that out later. Have fun. That's what the Patriots did. Now there's a little bit of a mess. Well, you clean it up now, but guess what? You had fun. 6 Super Bowls. 10, 10, 11 AFC Championship games? How many Super Bowl appearances? 8, 9? I lost count. I think it's got to at least be 9 of them. I think Brady went 6-3. I lose count. Let's see. Beat the Rams. Lost to the Giants twice. Lost to the Eagles. Those are the 3 losses. Okay? So I know that for a fact. Beat the Rams. Beat the Falcons. Beat the Panthers. Beat the Eagles. Beat the Rams. That's 5. Am I missing one? So 5-3? I think. I always forget. Feel like it's 5-3. 8 Super Bowls. They had a blast, man. They had a hell of a party. Now it's time to clean up. It's all good. Anyway, I digress. Let me get the hell out of here. It's been damn near approaching an hour and 30 minutes. I appreciate you guys for chopping it up with me this late. I got here a little later than I wanted to, but you guys rock with me anyway. I really appreciate y'all. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit that sub button, man. Subscribe to the LouieTeeNetwork for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, make sure you hit the like button. See 47 likes. There's 150 of y'all out there. Let's get this thing up to, look, 60 likes, 13 away. Let's see if we can't get to 60 likes before we get out of here. You know, turn that thing up. So if you haven't hit the like button, smash the like button for me. I really appreciate y'all. Look forward to chopping it up tomorrow with you guys. Or is it today? It's actually today. Sorry. On the podcast, Louie T Network podcast. Give you my picks for the week. We'll talk about any leftovers from tonight's game. And this is an interesting week in week number 14. A lot of evenly matched teams. If you funky, you playing another funky team. If you're average, you're playing another average team. It's a lot of these matchups that could go either way. Texans, Bears, Falcons. Like, the Falcons are staring in the mirror. The NFC version of we're going to blow it versus the AFC version of we're going to blow it. Chargers, Falcons. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Bucks, Vikings, 7-5, 6-6. Like, all of these evenly matched teams. Colts, Vegas, Raiders. Like, this is a crazy week. It could go either way. If you know, then you know this week. You go, and remember, all 16 games on the slate. Denver, Carolina. The hell, man? It's going to be fun this week. You go 12-4. Respect. This is going to be a tough one. Hard to navigate. San Francisco, Washington, 5-7, 5-7. Giants, Cardinals, 6-6, 5-7. It's a lot of these games that could go either way. It could get ugly. It could be a bloodbath this week if you're not careful. You step on a landmine somewhere in here, boom, your sheet just goes to shit. So I carefully have crafted what I think is going to be a winning sheet this week. I'd be lying to you if I said I was 100% certain about my picks, though. But we'll get into that later on today on the podcast. But I thank you guys again for joining me, man. Really appreciate y'all. If you haven't already done so, check out the Louie T Network merch. The link is down in the description. Check out the printchamps.com where you can get hats, shirts, beanies, hoodies, you name it. And I'm going to have a promo code for you guys here shortly. Next week. We'll have a promo code for the Christmas holiday season, and we'll run it all the way through the rest of the month. So if you want some merch, cop you some merch. I'm going to give you a promo code to give you a little bit of incentive to get you some, man. But I really appreciate you guys. I truly do. And with that being said, I'm going to glide to the side, allow you to enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you for rocking with me. I'm your man, Louie T, and this has been Thursday Night Football Overtime. Rams dominate the New England Patriots 24-3. They take first place in the NFC West by a half game over the Seattle Seahawks, who are 8-4, now 9-4 in the season. The Rams will see those same Seahawks in a couple of weeks after they take down the Jets, more likely than not next week, get to 10-4. Both of those teams could be on a crash course with one another at 10-4, depending on if Seattle takes care of business the next 2 weeks. Should be a lot of fun watching that division come down to week number 16. Meanwhile, the Patriots were playing great football. They were winners of 4 out of their last 5. A lot of people were buying what they were selling. They were 6-6 and climbing back into the AFC playoff picture. They gone. They were terrible tonight, and they got exposed. They're 6-7, and for all intents and purposes, they're done. Cam Newton was benched again in this game for Jarrett Stidham when things started to get out of control late. They're a mess. And again, this is a hell of a coaching job by Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, I believe, because the talent simply is not there. They're 6-7 on the season, and this was not a good showing by the Patriots. Anyway, I'm gone. See you next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.